He was born into a fading republic where corruption ruled and ambition was dangerous. From a humble boy in a broken system, he rose to become the most powerful man in the world. This is the story of Julius Caesar, the man who killed a republic and gave birth to an empire. Rome was on the brink. What began as a beacon of law and freedom was now being pulled apart by greed, infighting, and fear. In the shadows of this crumbling republic, a single man prepared to change the course of history forever. Act 1, Humble Origins, Acts 1 to 330. He was born noble, but with no power. Gaius Julius Caesar was born in 100 BCE to the patrician Julii family, one of the oldest in Rome. But age did not mean influence. His family was noble in name, but poor in power. His father died when he was just 16, leaving young Caesar with responsibilities no teenager should bear. At the time, Rome was under the control of a brutal dictator, Lucius Cornelius Sulla. To eliminate threats, Sulla ordered mass executions and demanded that Caesar divorce his wife Cornelia, whose family was politically opposed to Sulla. But Caesar refused. At 17, with everything to lose, he stood up to a dictator. That act of defiance could have cost him his life. Instead, it forged him into the man he would become. He went into exile and narrowly avoided death. But through danger and exile, a fire began to grow in Caesar. He learned that to survive in Rome, you needed more than blood, you needed brilliance. Act 2, Soldier to Rising Star, 330, 630. He bled for Rome before he bled it dry. Banished and penniless, Caesar joined the military. Stationed in Asia Minor, he proved himself to be a brilliant and daring soldier. During one battle, he saved an entire legion and was awarded the Civic Crown, a high Roman honor. His most famous adventure came when he was kidnapped by pirates. The story sounds like legend, but it's true. When they demanded a ransom, Caesar laughed and insisted they ask for more. For weeks, he joked with them, told them he'd have them killed, and once freed, he hunted them down and crucified every one of them. "I am not your prisoner, I am your future executioner." This was no ordinary Roman. He was charming, ruthless, and unforgettable. When he returned to Rome, he began dazzling crowds with speeches and gaining attention as a rising political figure. He climbed quickly, Quaestor, Aedile, then Pontifex Maximus, the chief priest of Rome. His speeches were electrifying, his generosity legendary, and the people adored him. But behind his smile was a man building something greater than popularity. He was building a path to absolute power. Act 3, Climbing the Political Ladder, 630, 900. To rule Rome, you must first master the Senate. Caesar understood the Senate was corrupt, and he knew that working alone wouldn't get him far. So he formed a political alliance that would change Rome forever, the first triumvirate, with two powerful men, Crassus, the wealthiest man in Rome, and Pompey the Great, its most celebrated general. To strengthen the alliance, Caesar married his daughter Julia to Pompey. It wasn't love, it was strategy. Everything Caesar did was part of a bigger plan. With their support, Caesar was elected consul, but he had his eyes on more than Rome. He wanted an army and a province to conquer. He became governor of Gaul, and that's when the world would finally witness the monster behind the genius. Act 4, The Gallic Wars, 9 to 12. He left Rome as a general and returned as a god. Caesar spent nearly a decade conquering Gaul, modern-day France and Belgium. He defeated dozens of tribes, built bridges across rivers, and crossed into Britain, territory no Roman had dared to invade. His campaigns were brutal. Over 1 million Gauls were killed or enslaved, villages were burned. But Caesar didn't just fight, he wrote. He published his commentaries on the Gallic War, sending stories back to Rome of his victories. The Roman people ate it up. He wasn't just a general, he was a myth in the making. He turned blood into fame and fame into power. By the time the wars ended, Caesar had become too powerful for the Senate to control. He had the loyalty of battle-hardened legions and the love of the masses, and that made him the most dangerous man in Rome. Act 5, Crossing the Rubicon, the moment that changed Rome forever. The Senate, panicking, ordered Caesar to disband his army and return to Rome alone. It was a trap. meant to strip him of power and likely his life. Instead, in 49 BCE, Caesar marched south and crossed the Rubicon River with his army. That was illegal. That was war. The die is cast. Alea iacta est. Civil war erupted. Caesar versus Pompey. The old alliance was shattered. Pompey fled to Greece. Caesar chased him, defeated him, and pursued his enemies across the empire from Spain to Egypt. There he met Cleopatra. Their affair would scandalize the Roman elite, but strengthen Caesar's position even further. He returned to Rome victorious, and what he did next ended 500 years of Roman democracy. Act 6. Caesar takes Rome. Rome bowed to him, but the Republic broke beneath him. In 46 BCE, Julius Caesar was declared dictator, first for a year, then for 10, then for life. He began sweeping reforms, gave land to soldiers, jobs to the poor, and reformed the calendar into the version we still use today, the Julian calendar. But with every reform, he weakened the Senate. He took more power into his own hands. He sat on a golden throne, wore a laurel crown, accepted worship. He even had coins minted with his face. The Republic had never had a king, but now it had something far more powerful. Act 7. The Ides of March. Even a god can bleed. A group of senators, fearing Caesar would crown himself king, conspired to end him. Among them, Marcus Junius Brutus, Caesar's close friend, possibly even his illegitimate son. On the Ides of March, March 15th, 44 BCE, they struck. In the Senate chamber, Caesar was surrounded and stabbed 23 times. He tried to resist until he saw Brutus. Et tu, Brute? You too, Brutus? Those were his final words. Caesar fell beneath the statue of Pompey, the man he once betrayed. Rome had rid itself of its would-be king, but the Republic was already too far gone. He died, but his shadow ruled forever. Caesar's death did not restore the Republic. Instead, it plunged Rome into more chaos, more civil wars. Eventually, his adopted son Octavian rose to power. He took the name Augustus and became Rome's first emperor. The Roman Republic was dead. Julius Caesar had not just ended a government, he had given birth to a dynasty. His name became a title, Caesar, used by emperors for generations. Even in distant lands, kings would be called Kaiser in Germany and Tsar in Russia. One man changed the course of world history, not just by ruling, but by daring to destroy what was once thought unbreakable. Power doesn't always come from swords. Sometimes it comes from vision and the courage to take everything, even at the cost of a nation. Julius Caesar didn't just change Rome, he changed what it meant to lead and what it meant to betray. It's not power that corrupts men, it's that only the corrupted seek power, and some, like Caesar, write their names in blood, not ink.